talk about the importance of the telephone as a networking tool as distinct from the computer or other electronic devices today?
Rich, I would love to. I'm a big fan. I love the telephone. I think what the telephone gives us is incredible intimacy. When you're on the phone, you are really right in somebody's head. And the reason it's so important to develop good phone skills is that when people are in person with you, they've got you to look at, they can look at your clothes, they can look in your eyes. On the telephone, the only thing that they hear is your voice. And so it's really imperative that you be able to control people's conversation and be able to have a commanding presence on the telephone. So one of the first things I always encourage people to understand is the person who makes the call is in control of the call. Okay, so for that reason, really heavy hitters don't take incoming, and if they do, it's qualified, comes through a receptionist and assistant, right? So really heavy hitters make outgoing calls. So one of the things that I talk to people about is tell people why you've called them. A lot of times people get a call and you don't really know what the call is about. So I always encourage people right off the bat to say, here's exactly why I'm calling, or this is the situation, or it's an early day, I'll be very quick with this, and let people know exactly what to expect in the call, okay? And a couple of the other things are making sure that you modulate a sound, making sure that you keep enthusiasm with the sound. So 3 tools that I encourage people to do on the phone. The first is to have bullet points, and not a script, but bullet points so they cover all of the information on the call. Because have you ever had people call you and speak to you and speak to you and speak to you, hang up, and then call you back and go, I forgot to ask you?
Yes.
All right, so for that reason...
I've done that.
Well, I have to,
yeah.
but I don't now. But for that reason, because I use bullet points. I use bullet points to help me, remind me of what I want to do. The second thing is, if you make an outgoing call, think about a singer. If a singer wants to get a really good sound and a really good tone, do they lie on a couch? Do they sit with their feet up? Do they slouch? No, they stand up. Standing up when you make an outgoing call will give you a lot more power. Absolutely, it will give you more diaphragmal breathing. It'll just help you with the breathing, it'll help you with the sound, and it'll help you with your confidence level. The third thing I encourage people to use is a reflective surface or a mirror within visual contact of themselves so it reminds you to smile. When you see yourself, it reminds you to smile and stay engaged. So those are a couple of the tools that I do. Also being aware and listening to people on the phone and not being distracted by a computer. We've always had the moment when we're talking to people on the phone and all of a sudden you hear, uh-huh, 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 and you're tapping. You know somebody is on a computer. So staying focused on the call is really imperative on the phone. But that intimacy thing is huge. Also, if you have to leave a message for somebody, think about leaving your number 2 times. Leave it at the front of the message and the back of the message. And slow down when you say it, okay? The other thing is making business calls during business hours, all right? If somebody calls me on a Saturday or a Sunday or at night that I don't know and I've never worked with before, I'm not pre-inclined to like that person or to want to work with them because they've just told me that their time is more important than my time. And if I do work with them, they're not really going to respect my time. Also, sometimes people make business calls outside of business hours. It tells me they're part-time people in our business, that maybe they're working another job and then trying to do the music business thing at night or on a weekend. And as you know, in our business, what you have to transmit is your commitment to it, to do it full time. So the phone thing is huge. So the person that makes the call has to end the call. If you call somebody and you've made the outgoing call, and if that person ends it, then they have actually, then that's not good. You need to understand and listen to emotions on the phone, not just the sound that people are giving to you. Also, a trick that works really well on the phone is to speak just to gauge the rapidity with the person you're speaking with and to speak just a little faster than they're speaking. And what happens there is that you are viewed for some reason, it's very interesting, as more intelligent if you speak just a little faster than they do. But that doesn't mean doing an impression of them. So if I call Nashville and people tend to talk around here, I'm going to speak back to them right around here. Here in LA, people more like here. I want to be right about here. Of course, the challenge is when you call New York City.
Right, yes. Right. Good afternoon, can I help you? Yes, hold on a minute. Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
But these are some of the phone etiquette things, and these are old school things, but they definitely work and translate into this modern world. And sometimes because people are so used to getting emails And text, when you actually make an outgoing call to them, it gives it a lot more dynamic for that reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you talk about the same kinds of qualities with regards to, live events, like meeting people in person, like going to an event, a musician or a band or somebody showing up at some kind of industry function?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, absolutely. Well, I always encourage people to wear something to let other people talk to them. So I have a drawers full of little pins and buttons and t-shirts and things that I wear. And what happens is, if people are shy, this allows them access to me. And I also work that in the other regard. If somebody's got something interesting on, asking them about that. So think about decorating yourself to allow other people in your world, And also, we're tribal in the music business. So like a little piece of something like esoteric, like a magazine that you read, or a website or a blog or something that has that name on it, can be a really, really good way to go. Now, when you get to an event, say an event starts at 7 o'clock, I always encourage people to get to events early. Because what happens is, when you get to an event and the event is gaining its energy and gaining its momentum, if you're there early as it does that, your energy can match the momentum of the event. All right? But what's very difficult to do is, if you walk into an event that's already up and running at full steam, and you walk in after driving in your car or being in the studio or whatever it is, and you're very mismatched with that energy. But should that happen, what works well is to lay back, observe the energy in the room, and then before you go into the middle of that room, make a perimeter 3 times along the outside. That way, when you go into the room, people will already feel like they know you because they have subconsciously seen you doing this activity. This doesn't mean you sprint around the perimeter.
Right.
Right? And if you see a whole lot of other people doing the same thing, you're going to understand people watch this video or went to one of my seminars or classes,
Right.
But it's a really good way to make yourself fit more into the energy. Also, observe people that are on the periphery or on the outside of an event. And if they're by themselves, go up to them, all right? Also, I did this for so long that I didn't even articulate it for a long time. If you're going to an event, the place to start networking is in the parking lot. Because have you ever noticed how music people are never quite sure where they are? Is this the door we're supposed to go? We're supposed to, right? And you're like, I don't know, but let me tell you, we'll find it together, all right?
Okay.
So in the parking lot, on an elevator, on an escalator, in a line, tremendous places to achieve networking. And we don't really know what's going to happen from any of this. We cast it out there, but it might be 25 years later and you sit back there in your Malibu mansion and say, wow, if I didn't have the enthusiasm or the energy to talk to that person in that moment, none of this would have ever happened. You know what I mean? So that's why networking works, we have to do it all the time. But events, conferences, conventions, shows, they're tremendous places. And even if you live out of town, and you're not in Los Angeles or New York or Nashville, conferences and having events to go to in your local area, it's all the same thing. You know what I mean? So we always want to encourage people to do that. Now, sometimes people will go to an event and because they're nervous, they will be too over the top. And it's a fine line between confidence and insecurity, which is arrogance. Because a lot of times insecurity shows itself as arrogance. So a person comes in there all like this. A lot of times that's just a fear mechanism at work.
And
so
it's a turnoff. Exactly.
Not taking yourself too seriously. Having a sense of self-deprecation if necessary, or being able to laugh at yourself. Just being human, And always want to, we're not going to talk to a depressed looking person. And we want to talk to somebody that looks like they've got enthusiasm.
Right.
So that's a big part of it, especially when you go to live events.
Yeah, very, very much so. It's so interesting hearing you speak about this because so much of the concept behind what you're talking about is being present, and putting yourself out not for yourself but for someone else.
Yeah.
But and doing that like in the parking lot, developing, like starting the relationship immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there. So that really helps. Dan, I want to thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Thank you, Rich.
I appreciate it very much.
It's terrific. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.